in junior school, children are told, you have to read, and children listen to what their teachers are saying and they're reading. But as you become a teenager, one of the rebellions is stop reading. Also, you don't have time. You lead such busy lives. And you don't get the time to actually read for pleasure. What I write, I'm not sure it's reading for pleasure, because it's reading really to think, reading to understand, reading to face your issues. For parents, for grandparents, understanding what it is that their teenagers are going through. I have lots of times when parents come up and say, my teenager is doing this, become so rude, become so rebellious, what should we do? So, if you read what I write, maybe you'll get some of those answers, but I don't write good literature, I don't write moral lessons, I hate them. I write the truth, the hard-hitting truth. And sometimes, in fact, even our president, late president, APJ Abdul Kalam, he personally selected me to give me an award on our Republic Day because he had read my book and he really liked my book. And afterwards, when he was talking to me, he put his arm on my shoulder and he said, Paro Anand, it's a very good book, but why do you say it's a book for children? It's such a hard book. The title of that book is No Guns at My Son's Funeral. Can you imagine a book for young people with such a title? No Guns at My Son's Funeral. He said, shouldn't children have a happy, joyous book? So I said, but they're not leading happy, joyous lives. Yes, they can escape in some books. But what I'm writing is books that will engage them, will make them think, will make them question and understand. I work with a lot of children. I have worked with over 500,000 children. Many of those children in very difficult circumstances. And I always ask children, and I will be asking you if you want to think of the answer to that. Before I open for question time, I will ask you the questions. What do you want to read about? What is that book that you haven't found yet? And make me write it. Help me write it. I collaborate with young people in writing as well. I find young people and I find young Bangladeshi people very, very exciting. So I'm going to first just start reading, if I can find my page. I mark it and then I lose it. This is a book called The Other. The Other mane, how we otherize someone who is different from me. How do I treat, I may think that I'm very good and kind and a nice person, but maybe I'm otherizing someone without even knowing that I'm doing it. Yesterday in our panel, I mentioned this incident of, there was a very severely disabled boy in a class of mainstream children. I called him up one day to address the class and say what did he feel about how he is being treated. Nobody was cruel to him. No one was mean. No one was teasing him. No one was bullying him. But still there were some things that fell short for him. What were those? He said he's severely disabled. He has mobility issues. He said that my classmates never ask if I want to play basketball with them. They just go off and play basketball. They never ask me. And I feel bad because I love basketball. The children were surprised. They never thought that a child who's so disabled is even thinking of playing basketball. But he's a kid. He's a child. Why should he not want to play? Why should it be that on sports day he's put on one side and made to run some stupid race with other children with disabilities? Why? So in these kind of ways, the way we are otherizing, this is me, this is you, we have some common ground, but not really. So this is a collection of stories of different kinds of otherization. But the story I'm going to read to you, you may wonder, why is this the other? It's when there's a victim of a crime and they come back in with us, we start treating them like victims. And we have otherized them through a crime they didn't commit. So here it is. The name of the story is Learning to Love Again. Shamoli. I slept last night. This is Shamoli's voice. I slept last night after a long time. A very, very long time. That is the first time since I stopped taking sleeping pills. The doctor eased them off so I wouldn't become addicted. But you don't know my nightmares. You don't see the dark shadows looming above my bed, or smell the whiskey on his breath, or feel the weight of him as he presses against me, crushing my body as his hands roughly shut down my voice. Sometimes I wake from non-sleep and find myself in a sweat, shaking and trembling like an earthquake has hit. I'm too frightened to move. All night I turn towards the window to catch the first glimpse of daylight, to tell me that it's day and I'm safe again. But then I turn away because I imagine there's someone hiding behind the curtains. I don't know which way to turn. I need to go to the loo, but I'm too frightened to get out of bed. I can't scream. I can't scream. He took my voice with him. So my screams are trapped in my chest, choking me, strangling me with those hands. Those hands, they weren't rough. In fact, they were creepily soft, pudgy and soft, like there was no bone underneath. Fat, soft, creepy, but strong. Stronger than the whiskey on his breath. The heat of him, the weight of him, and I'm screaming again. Deep inside my being, I'm screaming, my mouth stretched wide, my throat hurting from silent screams that fill me and choke me. I know it's going to get better. It has to. It has to. And then It is time. I know I'm not ready, but I have to be. I have to be ready. I get into the car and my dad is driving me to school. I know I'm not ready. Will I be a victim? Forever a victim? Do others know what happened to me? I feel my father's hand on my shoulder. He's gently stroking my back. I think he's telling me, whispering, it's going to be all right. But it's never going to be all right. I turn towards him to tell him that I've changed my mind. I don't want to go to school. I look into his face, his kind face, my lovely, beloved father, the one with twinkly eyes that no longer twinkle, not with laughter, but with unshed tears. Not since. I dig deep within myself. Maybe I can't do this for me, but I have to do it for them, for dad, for mum, and Nana and Nani, my grandparents, who are suffering along with me. In a way, it must be worse for them. It was their son who did it. My uncle, he did it. It was my mother's brother who had pulled me into the darkened room when I made my way to the toilet down the stairs, down the corridor. It was my mother's brother to whom she had tied Rakhi with a promise of protection, and instead he let us all down. And so I must be ready and go to school for my family. I lean over and hug Dad, and now I am telling him it's going to be all right. And this is a story because I realized that in a situation like rape, in a crime like rape, it's not one person who is the victim, it's everybody, the family. Think of what goes through them. We don't think of them that much. So this is a story in many voices. And now is the father, Abhishek. As Shamali gets out of the car and makes her way to go to school, he says, I watch as she leaves the safety of the car, the safety of my arms. I can see the tremble of her shoulders, and I notice how loose her clothes have become. Has she lost weight and I haven't even noticed? I feel the stab of guilt again. It's a handy knife. It's a handy knife that stays near my gut and wounds me all the time. I should have kept my little daughter safe. How could I have let this happen? But he was my wife's brother. Of course I trusted him. Who else should I trust? No one, whispers the knife. Trust no one. I watch as she bravely steps out into the world. I know that she's doing it for me, for her mother, for her grandmother. But I'm hoping, doing it a little bit for herself too. As I watch the school gates close, I can't leave. I sit in my car and I'm going to sit there till school is done and she's ready to come out. I drive a little further, just beyond the gate and park. And then the tears come. The tears come. I lean forward on the steering wheel and I'm weeping. How could I have let this happen? How could he have done this? How could he? And then I'm going to skip forward. So there is the teacher who is supposed to bring the child back into the school in a gentle way. She's supposed to be on duty with this young girl, Shamali. She has her speech prepared. Shamali is coming back to school today. I have to admit, I'm nervous. I'm shaking nervous. Like I overfilled my cup of coffee this morning and spilled it all over the staff room. Shamuli's teachers know, of course, not all of them, but just those ones who teach Shamuli. And we're gathered like a frightened herd of deer. None of us knows how to react. Yes, the psychologist has talked to us. We've been given some training. But now, as I walk down the corridor and I see her standing at one of the last windows, I almost want to turn around and run. I shouldn't have to deal with something like this. I'm a teacher. I'm supposed to just teach my subject. But teachers' jobs are harder than we think sometimes. Run, run, shouts my panicked heart. But of course I don't. I make my way determinedly to her. What do I say? It's going to be all right? What a stupid comment to tell someone who has been raped. It's going to be all right. I don't know. I don't know if it's ever going to be all right. I open my mouth to say something, but nothing comes out. I literally don't know what to say. But I'm committed now. And so, the mother who didn't have the courage to come to drop her daughter to school because she knew she would cry. And then, the grandmother and her best friend, the best friend who knows, the young boy who had a crush on her. They were going to become a couple quite soon. It was on the brink. And then she disappeared. He doesn't know why she disappeared. They've all been told that she was ill. She does look pale. She does look thin. Should I ask her what illness she had? Akshat thinks. And now I have Anuradha's voice. Anuradha, the grandmother, the mother of the rapist. I have lain awake night after night. I haven't slept, not at night, not in the day. I am exhausted, but more than tired, I'm hurt, I'm in pain. So much pain. And I keep asking myself, what did I do wrong? I must have done something wrong. I stand in front of the mirror. I look at myself and I feel the anger rise in me. Not for him, for me. That anger turns on me like a beast. I stand and look at the mirror and I say, you gave birth to a rapist. You brought up a rapist. And I slap myself, and I slap myself. You brought up a rapist. I shout at myself. And then Anuradha decides she's going to go to prison. I put the uncle into prison quite quickly. Of course, I'm not able to read the whole story to you. But I wanted, I was thinking that if I have all these voices, Shouldn't I have the voice of the rapist as well? But I couldn't. So I made Nani go, the grandmother. I decide to go and meet him in prison. Everyone is horrified that I've decided this. Everyone thinks I've still not learnt my lesson. I'm not going to take him treats and things to comfort him. I'm not. I'm not going to forgive him. I'm going to ask him, what did I do wrong? What gave you the permission to do this? What did I do wrong? So that I can teach other mothers what not to do. But I must take Shamali's permission first. I put my hand on the sofa so it lies between us as she comes and sits with me. She puts her own hand near mine. We sit in silence. At last she puts her head on my shoulder. Shamali, I'm not seeking your forgiveness. I'm trying to understand what mistake I made. Go, Nani. Go. You can go. Go and meet him. Go and ask him. I took Nani in her car to the prison. I had her outside the gates of the prison, and she stood there looking at the gate of the prison, but she turned away. I don't want to know what justification this man has to give. There is no justification. I don't want to give him a voice. I don't want him. And so I didn't. Maybe sometime I will, but right now, Nani gets back into her car and comes home to Shamali, and they will all heal. And the title of the story, because I write for young people, I always leave the story at a moment of hope, where there's hope. It's a very dark tunnel that we're in this story, but there is a light. Akshat, her almost boyfriend, when Shamali is in school, he leans over, he looks, he waves, and Shamali doesn't know how to react. She hunches up. And Meera, her best friend, holds her hand and said, wait, it's all right. You'll learn. And Shamali says, learn what? Meera says, you will learn to love again. There is love, and it's there for you, and you'll learn. Before I go on, I wanted to say that very often when I'm telling this story or another story about domestic violence, I see young people in the audience getting traumatized, and they're hearing their own story. And that is the thing, that so often, there was a story on domestic violence that I had told, and every time there were 2 or 3 children who were sort of almost physically sick hearing that. It was their story. And that is why we need to answer our President's question, President Abdul Kalam's question of why such a story for young people. It's because there are people, young people out there who are going through these things, and stories is one way of bringing that understanding and bringing the protection. It's also protection. It's a safety net by which you can jump off and talk about things that are difficult. So, questions, and then I can talk to you about some of the other stories here. Yeah. Can we have the mic?
Hello. Hello, ma'am. Your story was fantastic. I have two questions. The first one is a bit more simple. It's essentially just, what would you advise for us that we can do in order to introduce children more and more to the habit of reading stories, and so on and so forth. My second question is, in this story, the things that you have talked about, so you said you don't like putting moral lessons in your stories. However, in your stories, pretty much all of these characters are acting in what I would describe as very morally good ways. May I ask exactly what you think about this, and why there are no characters who are morally apathetic or just dismissive of the situation?
Great questions, both of them, very important. Introduce yourself.
My name is Ryan. I like writing stories.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Great. So, how do we get young people to read? And as I said, I really enjoy writing for young adults because that's the age when they're falling off the reading wagon. So, I think is to have stories that engage them. Not what adults think they should be reading, but what they really want to read. And I have had numerous young people who said that once I had done a story like this with them, that it's the only book they've ever read for pleasure in their lives. Why? Because it's something that engaged them, but also they don't know what else is out there. You know, I mean, the popular books get popularized more and more in a bookstore, in a library, through the media, and the real gems are hidden, and we don't know. So I think to write stories that young people want to read, to have easier access to what young people want to read. So both of those things for the first part. For the second part, I think a story can be moral without being moralizing. This is an important difference, right? I think every story worth its salt has something of importance to say and to convey to their reader. How we do it? Through a story it's a careful balance, that it's not a preachy story. I'm not teaching you a lesson. You know, there used to be in my time, I hope that these books no longer exist, with a story and a line underneath saying, and the moral of the story is, you know. Do we ever get convinced by that line and the moral of the story is? Do I ever think, oh, okay, now I understand, now I'm going to become like this? No, I don't. I walk away from it. I don't care about it. So it's what is absorbed through the story, through that character. And I do have some very dark characters in my stories as well. But in this particular one, I did not want to give the rapist uncle a voice. I couldn't. I thought about it maybe for 2 weeks. When I'm writing, I become my character. I inhabit that skin. I wear their shoes. And it's very difficult for my family. Sometimes when I become very strange and I'm behaving very oddly, my family says, "Are you writing another book?" And I say, "Yeah." They say, "Oh, Papa." There we go again. But yes, we are. So when I was in the skin of the Nani, I was literally, not physically I wasn't there, but in every other sense, I was in front of these prison doors. And I could not make her go in. I didn't want his voice heard. Any other questions? Anything at all that you'd like to know? And then I'm going to ask you the question.
Hi. My name is Namira. The question I have is, so in domestic violence, right? Usually these victims, sometimes they don't really know how to express their, how to tell someone in their family that someone this close to them has affected them this way. So how would you say that they would have to hold on to hope, because at this point in time, they don't really know how to share this information with anyone of their families.
So how much time do we have? How much? How are we doing for time? I don't, 20 minutes? 20 minutes, okay. So let me do it, yes. You have a question? Yes, sure. Please ask the question.
Thanks a lot. I learned from you a lot. We enjoy. You come again in Bangla Academy. We learn more and more. You are welcome in Bangladesh. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I love being here. And one of the stories in the other, the seed came out of Dhaka Literature Festival. I found a seed here and it grew into a story. So I owe a lot to being here. So to answer your question on the domestic violence, let me do a quick performance of that story. It's called Bablu's Bhabi. You know what is Bhabi? Everybody knows what is Bhabi. Okay. So, Bablu's Bhabi. Bablu was sad and angry. It had happened again today, like every day. Ever since Bablu's Bhabi had come into the house, dressed in red and gold, sobs escaping from her ghungat. Why did she cry? He thought girls were always dying to get married. So why was she crying? But now, 3 years later, Bablu knew why his Bhabi cried then and why she cried every day of her life. What had happened? Well, this morning, Bhabi went to water the holy tulsi plant with the matka, and as she was carrying it, Dinu, her husband, Bablu's older brother, drink-soaked, always in a bad temper, alcoholic, was walking past, going for his bath, and his towel slipped from his shoulder. "Pick it up." As she bent to pick up the towel, a little water splashed from the matka onto Dinu Bhaiya's foot. Suddenly all hell broke loose. He caught hold of Bhabhi's hair, threw her to the ground, smashing the matka, water spilling all over, and he was hitting her and kicking her as she folded her hands, asking for forgiveness. Maaf kar do, for no wrong. She hadn't committed any crime, she had done no wrong, but she's asking for forgiveness. And Bablu turned away. Like a coward, he turned his back. His fist was clenched. He was shaking with rage, a ball of bile rising in his throat. But he turned away. What else could we do? He was 12 years old. After Dinu left, Bablu saw Bhabhi washing the clothes. Black and blue bruises across her arms and on her back. As she lifted the bucket, carrying it to go and dry the clothes, Bablu finally found action in his body and went and held the handle of the bucket. Give it to me, Bhabhi. I'll do the clothes. And with his free hand, he touched the bruises. With a moment of that soft, soft touch of care, Bhabhi burst into tears, and she was weeping, but not a sound dared escape her lips. They stood like that a long time. When Bhabhi's voice could be found, she said, "Maar de mujhe, Bablu, kill me, I can't take anymore." They stood. What could Bablu do? As her tears dried up, Bhabhi took the bucket and went to dry the clothes. As Bablu stood rooted to the spot, but something had changed. He didn't understand it at that moment. He just felt different. Next morning began like any other. As Dinu Bhaiya sat down to his breakfast and Bhabhi gave him a roti and hot chai, he threw the hot tea onto Bhabhi's face. "Damn you, woman! Is this what your parents have taught you?" And he began to hit her. As he raised his hand, Bablu was there in a flash. He caught hold of Bhaiya's hand, upraised arm, and said, "Dinu, let her go. You dare to come between my woman and me? She is not your woman. She is your wife. She is my Bhabhi. Let her go." Screaming and shouting, Dinu turned on Bablu, throwing him to the ground. But he was a drunk. He was weak and shaking. And Bablu, much stronger, although much younger, scrambled up onto Dinu, sat astride him, pinned his hands down and said, "You touch my Bhabhi one more time, just one more time, and I swear I will have you in prison. One more time." And then Bablu got up. He left Dinu moaning and groaning there on the floor. Bablu was shaking. He couldn't believe what he had done. Bhabhi and Ma, they were, whether they thought it was right or wrong, he didn't know, and he didn't care. Because Bablu knew what he had done was right. He washed his face, calmed his nerves, and said, Bhabhi, give me a roti, I have to go to school. Bablu had become a true man. So this, through a story. Now when I tell this story, I always notice there are some children, and it's obvious from their body language, from their expression, that they know this evil. But if a teacher is to come into class and say, in whose homes is there domestic violence? Will any child stand up and say, yes, in my home? No, they cannot. What does a story do? It makes a safe space. It gives you that safety net of fiction. It's a story. It's your story, but it's a story. And you can jump off and talk. So a girl came after the session and she said, is the story true? And I said, what do you think? And she said, it's definitely true. I said, how are you saying with such surety it's true? She looked at me and she said, because it happens in my house. All other children came, many of them knew of the curse of domestic violence. So I asked them, what do you feel? And they said, we feel angry, they felt many things. What did they all feel? Bebas, helpless. They feel that they can't do anything. So I asked them, I said, all right, you can't do what the character in the story does, that's a story. But what can you do? And their answers are always so powerful. So one boy said, when I grow up and I get married and I'm angry with my wife, I'll fight with her. I won't hit her. That's what I can do. And the girl said, we will refuse to be beaten. That's what we can do. I don't know if they will as they grow up in life, but if even one of them, two of them, remember the story, then I think I've served my purpose in life by doing that. Any other questions before we, yeah, yes.
मैं आपसे हिंदी में ही सवाल पूछना चाहता हूँ।
ठीक है।
मेरा सवाल ये है, आपका फेवरेट राइटर कौन है?
मेरे बहुत सारे फेवरेट राइटर्स हैं। I have a lot of favorite writers. I love Harry Potter because I love those stories. Yay! And I also love Harry Potter because I'm a writer, because J.K. Rowling broke all rules of what? Because till then, adults were saying, no, this is very difficult. This children won't understand. This paragraph is too long. This book is too fat. It's not suitable for children. And what did children do? Prove us adults wrong. Yay! And there are many writers who inspire me. I love to read Indian fiction. I love to read South American fiction. There are some fabulous writers from the African continent, Chimamanda Adichie. Great stuff that they write. I love reading children's books. Actually love reading children's books. Anybody else? Would you like? Yes. Okay, you and then you.
Hello, good you hear me? Okay, so I am Nyla. I live in the United States, and yeah, I'm in favor of all kinds of empowerment, whether it's like women empowerment or men's empowerment or refugees. I work in refugee education, so that's one kind of empowerment. But when you actually share that part of your experience where you call the children and ask them, what can you do to prevent this when you grow up? And you actually quoted one of the girls or some of the girls that said we can prevent ourselves from being beaten. Okay, come, let's put that in the real life scenario. So if they protest being beaten, the next thing is they will be driven out from the house. In the case of Muslim women, they will be given 3 talaqs. That means it's a divorce, final. So, I mean, at the micro level, there needs to be more empowerment. I believe if like they grow up with the concept or the attitude that they have to be an earning member.
Right.
You know, that is empowerment in itself. If someone like the domestic violence, their partner who is indulging in domestic violence tries to give them like any kind of shit, I'm sorry for my language, then they can actually use that power and say, okay, I'm done with you. You know, I can fend for myself. But if they don't have that power, they can't even say that. They are not in a position to say that. That's all I have to say.
Absolutely. I know that these are sort of, this is a band-aid solution, but at least in the boys who heard the story, there's an awareness. This story actually came out because a friend of mine was being really badly beaten by her husband, and she finally one night escaped with her 2 children, and she had no economic independence either, didn't have support of her parents even, but she escaped with her children. And the next thing you know is that the son has become violent because he thought that that is how the man of the house must behave. And so I think through stories, through telling this story to 11, 12-year-olds when they're far from getting married, but somewhere in their zehen, in their consciousness, deep consciousness, there is a seed planted that it's not all right. And as a storyteller, that is what I can do. Yes, you had a question? Question?
What got you into writing stories? What got you into writing stories?
What got me to writing stories? Oh gosh, that's a whole story in itself. I was in class 7 and my teacher was asking, what pet animals do you all have at home? And everybody had very interesting pet animals, and I had such an old dog that he was more like a kambit than a dog. He used to just lie there. And when my turn came and I stood up and everyone was looking at me the way you are all looking at me, instead of old dog, what came out of my mouth was monkey. And so the teacher called me in front of the class and said, tell us more about your monkey. And I am telling lovely stories. Any question the teacher, any question the students were asking me, I was able to answer. And in my head, I'm in class 7. In my head, I'm thinking, gosh, Paro, you're really good at this. If you can do nothing else, maybe you can be a writer. Yeah.
What's your favorite story that you've written?
You know, books, my books, I've written about 37 books. And books are like my children. And can a parent ever say, this is my favorite child and not that one? Some children are more successful than others. Some go out and get more fame and fortune than the other child. But a parent can't say, this is my favorite child and that the one who's not successful is not favorite. They're all my favorite children. Some I wish I could have brought up a little better, done a bit better with them. Yeah. Yes.
What is your first book about?
My first book is about that pet monkey, that made up pet monkey. It's called Pepper the Capuchin Monkey and Other Stories. But sadly it's now out of print.
How many days did it take you to finish all writing your books?
You know, each one is different. So, my fastest book and my slowest book, I'll tell you about those. One book is a novel. It took me 5 years and I rewrote the book 7 times before I was happy with it. And so that was the slowest one. The fastest one, hold your breath, one night. It started cooking in my head at 4 in the afternoon. And after dinner, after making my children go to sleep and everything, I sat at the dining table and I wrote it. And at 6:30 in the morning, I was crying away because it had a very powerful but sad ending. And I went up and my husband saw me and he said, "What happened? Why are you crying?" And I said, "I just finished a story." And that book went on to be on a very powerful list called 1001 Books to Read Before You Grow Up. And that includes Enid Blyton, Harry Potter, all the major writers and Paro Anand. So I'm very happy. Yes. My most famous book is the one called, famous in the sense that it's now regarded a classic. It's reprinted, it's been reprinted for 17 years now. It's being made into a film and it's taught in many schools and it won international awards. It's called No Guns at My Son's Funeral. And there's another book called Like Smoke, which is available at the bookstore. My books are available at the bookstore and I'd be very happy to sign copies if you're getting them. So Like Smoke also won the highest literary award in India. Yes, the kids are full of questions I would ask.
1 minute.
Yeah. Can you get the mic? Right. Okay, after this. All right.
Okay, hi, I'm Naila again from the USA. So, yeah, like you, I can call myself a children's book author. I had my first children's book published. It's on Amazon. It's called Just Like Us.
Okay.
And it's rated to 11-year-olds, but there's a strong message for adults. It deals with openness and embracing diversity. And
Congratulations.
Deals with, one immigrant child, 8 years old, and another child who represents typical white America. Okay. Anyway, my question to you is, what challenges do you think or differences do you think exists when writing a children's book as opposed to writing a book for adults?
When I'm writing for children, I never leave it at a state of hopelessness. I always give a light at the end of the tunnel, that there is a solution. The problem is bad, the tunnel is dark, but there is hope. So that is the one thing that I'm very conscious of when it's a book for younger people than when it's a book for elders. But otherwise, I write about anything and everything.
So your children's book, they also are picture books, right?
I do write picture books as well. Yeah.
Okay, so the pictures do speak 1,000 words,
Yeah.
right? and that is not that is not something we can say about adults or books for elders, right? Anyway, I wish you best of luck.
Thank you so
and
much.
I feel fortunate that I'm here. I was able to listen to you talk.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you. Yes, there's one question here. And then who was the child who had the question? I know we are running way out of time, right?
Yeah.
Way out of time. Yeah. Sorry. Okay. So just two questions, one here, and then we're done.
What would be the one advice you'd give to a young author who has hit a writer's block?
Write. Keep writing. What I do with writer's block is to write 2 books at the same time. If I'm blocked with one, I jump to the other. And once I'm writing that, the creative juices get flowing and I can get back to the first one. Yeah, one last question from a child and then...
Yes, what was the
Sir,
book?
1 second. Sir, he's standing up, I can't see.
Yeah, what was the book you weren't happy about, that you were like sad and like couldn't finish it as you wished it was?
It was actually the first book I wrote. It's a book of plays. And I was very young, and I think the editor didn't do any work on it either. It's a very important role that the editor plays in getting the best form of your book. And so that is what I feel that should have been a much better book. It's the first book I wrote, so I can forgive myself for it. Thank you so much. You've been a wonderful audience.